BRAT is the album that the rollout for Crash was seemingly pointing to. During the Crash era, Charli was posting like blood and stuff, caption things like industry tip number 37, let your label own everything you do. I can't remember the exact wording. Then Crash came out and it was fairly normal in comparison with most of the stuff Charli had been doing. But then BRAT has a similar-ish rollout and her label let her cook for once, ending up with something that sounds a lot closer to her stir-crazy quarantine album How I'm Feeling Now than the polished throwbacks of Crash or Number One Angel or the tasteful experimentation of Pop 2. BRAT doesn't seem to be getting enormous streaming numbers yet, but the impact on culture this year is basically inescapable. The too big to failness of Taylor Swift might have screwed the paradigm of how we think about what it means to be a pop superstar. She has an economic effect on places she plays shows at. She's bigger than Jesus. And so figures like Chappell Roan and Sabrina Carpenter and, well, Charli XCX don't really feel as famous to me, even though they've all garnered huge fan bases. And the other names like Ava Max and BB Rexa and Tove Lo get relegated even further down the list of also-rans. America's Princess has made herself a complete fact of life and thus is finally completely boring to talk about. Ah, that's my toe! Ah! There has been kind of a death of the celebrity over the last couple of years as we all get more jaded and fatalistic and less receptive to the concerns of rich people.
Imagine there's no...
We need our public figures to be grounded and relatable, and we rake them over the coals if they have a bad take. Let me be clear. I do not care. All of these people have more money than I will ever see in my life. They don't need my sympathy, if I had any. But I bet big after loving Sucker enough to buy it on iTunes, and Charli has paid me back with interest. She introduced me to Sophie and PC Music, for God's sake. I'm losing my edge, but I was there. People complained a lot about Mean Girls being about Dasha from Red Scare. I do not know anything about the woman aside from her being supposedly bad news. Besides, if you're going to call the album politically incorrect, a better place to start would be Von Dutch, which is named after a clothing brand named after a guy who painted motorcycles who was a massive Nazi. Speaking of Von Dutch, the music video is not so much paparazzi chase as Charli just kicking the shit out of someone while trespassing in an airport. It's a folk retelling of the Welcome to Bangkok incident. There's a small collection of reporters who completely disappear after the first shot of the video. The only thing keeping me from saying they're a hallucination is the footage replaying on the screens at the end. Also, she's gonna get her hair caught in the baggage carousel. That freaks me out most of all. The 360 video looks like the meeting for the next It Girl is taking place not in an Instagrammable brunch palace, but in a bistro someone opened in the back rooms. Instead of luxury mansion steps or grand opulent stages, we have a bedridden old man's chest, or the corner of a gym in the kind of health club that hasn't bought a new piece of equipment since Bush was president. Everyone looks like they haven't slept for a few days.
We totally want you to, have to fulfill the prophecy of finding a new hot internet girl. That's literally why we're at dinner.
Or else our kind will cease to exist. Forever.
You can't get more blatant than that! I'm mildly interested in the Dare's upcoming album off the strength of the instrumental for Guess, and also because against my better nature I like the song Girls. I should hate this. It's like if 303 tried to rip off LCD Sound System. I saw people calling Billy's verse on the Guess remix predatory, and I think, yeah, that's the point. Guess is not a sexy song to me. It's so sexual that it makes me feel uncomfortable. It feels violating. And the outro suggests that's entirely on purpose. Billy's verse reminds me of the times a male singer has featured on a female artist's song and been like uncomfortable and weird and lecherous towards her. It reminds me of Drake and Wayne's verses on Nicki's Only.
I never fucked Wayne, I never fucked Drake.
We all know it, and both feature verses are basically, well, that's not for lack of trying, by the way. We are super horny for Nicki Minaj.
I never fucked Nicki cause she got a man, but when that's over, then I'm first in line.
Ew.
Whoever is hitting ain't hitting it right, cause she act like she need dick in her life.
Yeah. Second example, Birthday Cake remix by Rihanna featuring Chris BR*WN.
Girl, I wanna fuck you right now.
Okay, that's everyone complaining about Billy's verse being a bit horny, like, get some perspective. There you go. She was orders of magnitude more respectful. What was I talking about before that? Oh yeah, the outro. Obviously referencing the leaking and cancellation of XCX World. Brings up imagery of stalkers and perverts. Unfortunately, I am going to have to mention Reddit, but the Charli XCX subreddit was mostly dedicated to bikini pictures and other objectifying and sexualized posts. Any actual substantive discussion of her music was done on another subreddit, XCX Heads. But don't worry, the story has a happy ending because XCX Heads basically staged a hostile takeover in July of 2020 and wiped the old subreddit of its previous lecherous content and picked up where they left off in their new home. One of the few times where justice was truly done. Perhaps the album is Charli making a pitch for how celebrity culture can adapt to the times. To reject the pristine and composed persona, the immaculately constructed graven image, and to enter a perpetual blackout era. BRAT, to me, is adjacent but separate to the phenomenon of the girl failure. BRAT says women are angry and petulant and make mistakes and feel trapped and have conflicting desires. BRAT sees the semi-misguided call for the celebrity, maybe even for women, to be morally perfect role models, and spits in its face. I shall not be discussing Kamala is Brat, the new Did Margaret Thatcher Have Girl Power, because I'll get worked up and then the Liberals will call the police on me for shouting ACAB means Kamala over and over. Speaking of which, it's funny how the Just Stop Oil people got way longer sentences than the current spate of Tommy Robinson race rioters in the UK. This is why I don't make politics stuff. I get too excited and I'll accidentally say something that gets me shadow banned for having opinions that are too good. This video was about Brat, wasn't it?